So I want to talk about what happened with Rose McGowan today. She made a very, very painful revelation and confession and basically just let out her feelings and her shock. And what happened was this is what happened to a lot of us in 2016 when we got the things that happened about Hillary. And I had always been told in my state that Republicans were bad and not about freedom. They were about taking away your rights. And so my parents and my family were independents. But that was still a lie because there were still bad Republicans in there. But again, with what Trump did, he basically realigned the word Republican and what that meant and is trying to drain the swamp out of the Republicans that don't hold conservative values and are not pro-life. But that was the party that preserved, protected life and freedom. But most people thought Democrat meant democracy when they're learning that Democrat means socialist and communist, and democracy means freedom. And so they're having to make this distinction, and then they're going back like we did. I went over everything that happened after when Hillary, was when WikiLeaks came out and we found out, and I had to realign with all of my thinking. And we're finally seeing not only celebrities, but the entire Black person race have to rethink what this means. So I want to show you what I did tonight because these people, I've always reached out when they're in pain. And whether people agree with it or not, I don't care. Because all people did not necessarily volunteer through celebrity for what they actually received, meaning a lot of them were duped and tricked into thinking celebrity was alive and glamorous and beautiful, and they never knew they were going to be controlled and have to do anything. So everybody has to understand, especially when it came to them being used in their celebrity to align with politicians that were even more evil than they ever dared think. So here she is confessing that she used to be a proud Democrat and a proud American. She would have died for the country. Her brother graduated as a fighter pilot from the Air Force Academy. She wore a Vote John Kerry pin, and she just goes on and on and on. And she's talking to the Washington Post and New York Times and different people. And what happens is she says, but now I know too much and I feel quite a sense of loss. And when she's been seeing that the Me Too hashtag movement doesn't change, doesn't stop, doesn't vindicate the women that were abused and sexually violated and end it so that we end up healing ourselves and healing the people that had been harmed and victimized, she's now got to face what's really going on. And it's excruciating. It was excruciating for us when we found out. And this is not about blame or saying it took you long enough. Everybody can only come to these revelations and changes when they can and when it's possible. And every painful layer of onion that gets peeled back, it happens a layer at a time for different people in all forms of healing. And one of the things that we have to do to heal is opt to believe in our right for freedom and our right to not be prey. Not be prey in Hollywood, not be prey politically, not be prey as women, not be anybody's science project, not be tested and vaccinated so that we find out how it works. And there's only one way to get to that goalpost at the moment, which is with the the platform that President Trump put in. Was it always like that? I don't know because I wasn't paying attention back when all these other people, but we had other political leaders that claimed they were Republican that also did many things that harmed and did not protect women, the environment, children, and Hollywood. So while we're trying to break down our past, and it's happening all different ways for different people, our opportunity is to teach them, like we had to walk through the other side. And when you're in a phony life with people that aren't really there for you because they're suffering and they have their own secrets and they had to pay the price of entry to be in a sorority, a fraternity, Hollywood elite, political gangs, groups, whatever, they might not really have your back or ever even be able to be there for you. And so, what people are finding when they Blexit or do this kind of an exit, of finally facing that things are so wrong, they have to make another decision for the country that they're living in. The only thing that people can do is take this opportunity to clean up a big mess that's been decades and maybe centuries in the making. And so what happened is they were told and we were told that, if you leave your party, you're a traitor, and don't go there, it's a cult, and what's Trumpism and whatever. You know what? Right now, he's the only one that spells freedom. And we've been able to see it in what's happened with Tara Reid and her allegations against Joe Biden. And the fact that they're pushing Joe Biden despite prior um, actions and people complaining and photographs of him way too close to small children and sniffing hair of people, which is in its own an insane act, especially because he was the age of a grandfather doing it to people that were 20 and younger. And how they're protecting that position that he holds as the only person left to carry the party. And then at that cost, while there's an allegation, kind of like in the 90s against Bill Clinton, and they don't want to address it all these many years later, is absolutely destroying people's ability to be able to stay and support that party. And so all I want to tell people is that we have to pass no judgment, don't give people a time limit, but welcome them and help them heal. And so it was so cute because one of my favorite, Scott Pressler, put out a thing saying, I can't imagine what you're feeling now. You can't help but think that the Me Too movement and the lack of reporting on Tara Reid has led in part to this post tonight. There are very few politicians or people you can actually trust. All I want is honesty. And I made her a couple of responses on mine, and just stated to her, it's a shock to see what we did not see and what we did not want to see. But what comes out of that is a strength you never had or thought that you would need. It's like coming through the other side. Please finish walking through and meet the first authentic people you have ever known. And while they're shadow banning me and whatever, I got 3 likes and a retweet because mostly my content just doesn't get even received to the person that I'm sending it to. But it was super important because we have to be there with open arms for people that are trying to figure out where they belong when they find out their whole world is fake. And we still have to be careful because we don't want to get brought into someone can't who can't cross the fence all the way, and leave the Hollywood fame and the Hollywood fakeness and all of that life of luxury behind in order to live where we live more authentically and we're not rich. But I always give people rope and give them a hand as they try to cross because they don't know where they belong anymore. And seriously, I used to think Hollywood was exactly as glamorous as they played it. And it was so shocking for me to see that that was not so. And I am not materialistic, so I wouldn't have 3 seconds of hesitation to give up all of my fake life in order to go find authenticity. But that's probably why I could never be in Hollywood. Now, I want to still combine this with another thing that's happening because what happened also was Diddy, and I let me see if I can find my Diddy tweet because, oh, good, very hard. Yeah. And, all I'm doing is trying to heal and help. But also, Diddy, if I can find, I've got to look down here because here it is. Okay. So, Diddy made a video earlier today, and I want to show people what it was. And basically, he's a little worked up. And what he was saying, he said the black vote will not be free this year. But what happened was even above that, he made a video somewhere. They hide all my stuff. They won't ever let me even get back to it. But if you follow Diddy, it's just at Diddy on Twitter. You might be able to see his original tweet. But anyway, here's what I wrote to Diddy. And I said, Diddy, in 30 years, the Democrats have been used to push the race agenda. Race is a business, and they bought your votes. Why? Keeping everyone on benefits and poor is the answer. In 3 years, President Trump put people back to work, let them out of jail, and called you Americans. No race involved. Lexit. And then there's my meme. And what happened, if you go to his account, they're not letting me go back to it. Let me see if I can find the original tweet. And his heartfelt thing was saying that he just doesn't, I don't know who that is, but it was, I don't have time to scroll down. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Okay. So here he is stating, and I don't know him, everybody. I know Kanye, so I've heard of Diddy. I've never really heard his voice before. But what he's saying in this video that he put on his thing is that the black vote isn't going to, he's holding it hostage so that it's not going to be, that the Democrats can't just have it anymore. And I hear what he's saying. But also, that thought is bad because it's trying to make people not go vote, and they'll get the wrong message that if they don't vote, they're going to have less freedom than they have. They need to take the information that's being put out by the president in numbers with proof, okay, and get the data they need to make the informed decision of what is happening to them and what is helping them. And what I put in another tweet to him was that in at least the past 3 to 4 decades and my entire lifetime, they have used race as a way to control people and make people feel lesser, even as Black celebrities. And that is on purpose so that there's no real leaders and they even felt different as Black celebrities. And the most important thing to do out of this is to understand, no, you can't hold the vote hostage. Everybody needs to vote in big, huge numbers, and they need to vote carefully and they need to vote rationally on the evidence that there is in a 3-year term of a president and what he's done for people compared to a 30 to 40-year resume of everyone else. And the only way that you can educate people is by proof and evidence. And the fact that there was the lowest unemployment, the highest employment, and then a plan to give people a second chance, which never ever happened anywhere under any other presidents. And so Candace Owens got in here and she tweeted, and I don't know if I can find her tweet, but she responded to this and she had a great response to him, which again, you've got to go, like, they're just messing with my Twitter. I can't go find all these things. But it's imperative that people understand that we need everyone to vote. And if you sell out yourself because you're afraid to vote thinking, oh, I don't know, what did he mean? He said, let's hold it hostage. The black, what did he say again? The black vote will not be free this year. Everybody needs to be free. And I know what he was trying to state. He just didn't correctly state it so that people can make an evaluation based on Trump's record versus Bush, Obama, and Clinton combined. And that is a gigantic difference in what happened to their lives in such a short time. So the fact that they're speaking out, the fact that Rose McGowan is speaking out, we're finally having a very delayed awakening of people that are actually afraid for what they're really up against, because celebrities were even used by the fake news and by politicians in order to push the government agenda, which was separate from the Hollywood agenda. And can you imagine saying, okay, Diddy, you're famous, help me promote this. And that brand is the one laced with Roundup and Monsanto and giving us cancer. And they get paid, and they probably don't even do an ingredient check on what it is and what it is. They get used as well, because this was a plot to make our actors and our sports figures and everybody famous so that they would get a certain amount of money. But as they were, and it was again shown in the movie Out of Shadows, they were then controlled for the money they earned, and then they would pay them more money to go do another agenda. And so here's another example. I know they use some celebrities in faces for those charities and those organizations and blood drives and different donations. And that was all hiding trafficking and hiding pedophilia, hiding drugs, hiding sex trafficking. And we're assuming that they knew. I bet you they didn't, because they would pop in and do what they were supposed to do and leave. And then we were left to believe they supported whatever they were talking about, or whatever brand it was, or whatever charity it was. But it didn't work that way. It was all completely a plot of a very dysfunctional marriage of them together, and no one ever questioned it. And it was funny because I remember celebrities endorsing makeup, and we don't know if they ever wore the makeup. But we found out that there was bad things in our makeup ingredients that was gross. And so all I'm telling people is we need to have everybody vote. This has to be the biggest election turnout in history. And if you have done your homework and seen what happened when our president was blackmailed from day one, and he never stopped fighting for all of us and every single race and community. And he tried to end all of the illegal activity so that everybody that was here would be given the job consideration and not be on unemployment, while they brought in cheaper labor and left people here unemployed. And so all there's going to be another change in Hollywood and a change in their views of the Democratic Party. And you're watching these brave people have this commentary where they're at least saying, hey, our votes not you're not going to automatically get our vote anymore. And that's what Diddy was stating. And he didn't come out and endorse Trump because that would probably like destroy his life and his brand, because when they do that, that's what happens. And that has to stop happening too. We have to allow people that are famous to own their own mind and to have their own revelations and be able to say, you know what? I might have made a lot of money, but my friends are back in the hood, and I see they've never left the hood since any time. Why is that? And so they need to be able to have some freedom without the CIA, without anybody controlling them 100% and not allowing them to state what they think. So that is the one other thing that's breaking now. And what's happening on social media is that they're finally coming to a realization that things aren't the way, there's no picket fence anymore. And again, it's going to be hard for people that are wealthy to ever decide to give it all up and live among us, because one of the things that they did is achieve a level of a higher income, higher earning, and a different way to live. But that also leaves them in a position where when they choose to not follow what the Hollywood and the guidelines are for you not having your own mind, there's going to be this new small population that is going to blex it out of Hollywood. And it doesn't matter which stars they are. They now say, I can't go live like that anymore. And I might have made enough money and I've done enough movies and maybe I'll own a restaurant or a bed and breakfast or something, but I don't know if I'm going to go back to that. And then just like us that left all our friends behind and everything we knew behind, when all of a sudden we had our voice about what we were seeing, we all had to regroup and find a new way to fit in. So we have to welcome everybody, and then we're all going to live in a different set of places. Are we personally going to meet Rose McGowan and Diddy? Not likely. But we can support what they're doing so that they no longer feel wrong and alone for their realization that something isn't fitting with everything that they're seeing. And we also have to be thankful that they're coming to this because it's so difficult. It's kind of like if my mother used to always say to me, if everybody gets to do something and I say no, you do not get to do it. You are not following the crowd. And I remember when the movie Dark Shadows was on, it was on every day at 4 o'clock, and my mother would not let me watch it. And I snuck out of my house once. I don't even know how I did this. I was such an angel and I was so afraid to get in trouble or have my parents mad at me. But I snuck out of my house one day at 4 o'clock to watch Dark Shadows next door with my neighbor. And in my head, I did that repeatedly, but I'm pretty sure I only did it for one day because I don't really remember the plot, which just lets me know I probably only saw a couple of episodes. But I snuck out to go see it because my neighbor's mother let her watch it. And if my parents had ever found out that I did that, I'd probably still be grounded now at age 60. But my point is that she absolutely said to me, I don't care if this girl, your best friend's mother lets her do it. I'm not letting you do it. And you are not following the crowd. So I was never able to go just do what everyone else did, which enabled me to have my own mind. Did I always want to go? Did I want to do everything that was popular and what everybody was doing? Of course. But because starting at that young age, I never was allowed to do it, that echoed in my head all the time that I can't always go and do what happened, what they wanted. And a lot of times that saves you from all of them doing the wrong thing. And here's an example. In my high school, when we barely had licenses, and I didn't get my license till I was 21, even though most kids got it at 16. I was afraid and I didn't want to drive. And I was so scared to get behind the wheel. And several people tried to teach me. I did not want to. But when I was a senior, four of my friends invited me to go to the beach while they were all brand new with the license and they wanted to go. And my mother wouldn't let me go. And I cried and I stormed in my room and I didn't want to read a book and I didn't want to make anything. And I was mad at my mother all day. And we got a phone call that night that all four of those people in no seatbelts went through the windshield because they were struck and they were maimed for life. And I remember the two people in the front seat, nobody died. She had a scar on her forehead all the way up to her skull all her life. And she missed, I think, a half a year. And the other girl broke her leg and she never ever walked normally again. And we were under 18 years old. I think we were 17. And then the girl in the back seat hit everything in the front seat and she was in a coma and whatever. And then the fourth girl, which would have been where I sat, ended up with a broken neck and collarbone or something like that. And so my mother, I could never say to my mom, oh gosh, thank goodness you didn't let me go, because you're still mad at your mother. But it was later on in life when I realized how lucky I was that I wasn't injured. And I put two and two together and I thanked my mother. But we always want to do what everyone else is doing. And we need to learn how to make our own mind up individually for what's good for our lives. And you're watching that happen to the stars today. And the fact that there's two of them there talking together, it's just huge. And so I want people to give room to forgive people that are having a revelation, and they will become part of what awakens many other people. Because as people speak out, the rest say, I kind of heard him. I agree. And we have to protect our women. We have to prevent rape. We have to use the force of the law, no matter who does it, the same consequence for people. And you cannot have a candidate running to be the president with a concrete allegation that gets dismissed so that there can be a more evil plot in place. And that is what they're seeing. And when we get to this election, everybody has to vote their conscience. But instead of party lines, they have to forget that and get the message of what means our freedom, means equal consequences under the law versus absolutely no law and a very, very damning agenda with a very, very long history of no success and no change. And when you think those two things through, you'll be able to come to a conclusion of what you want to do to protect the country that you live in. And that is what 2020 is about. And I do honor and bless all of the people that are becoming awake and tell them that they have to finish walking through where they've been to where they want to go and find the new place where they belong, because everybody does. And they have to know that even if they leave what they thought was their famous world behind, they have never been alone. Actually, they were more alone there, and they're never going to be alone here with people that understand that they have the bravery to face things that are wrong and try to take now and change how they live and what their brand is. And each celebrity can create a brand new brand for how they want to finish the rest of their journey. And thank you very much.